Welcome back to Vibe News, the channel that brings Africa's most powerful stories out of the shadows and into the spotlight. Today, we're diving into a real-life thriller, one that even Hollywood couldn't script. A secret intelligence war, Western spies, African patriots, covert bases, and at the heart of it all, a young revolutionary leader who refused to bow. With nothing but wit, loyalty, and patriotism, it outmaneuvered foreign-backed agents, exposed a secret spy base in Côte d'Ivoire, and set a new standard for African sovereignty. Burkina Faso, a land once written off as poor and powerless, has just stunned the global intelligence community. But they didn't count on one thing: Captain Ibrahim Traore and the sharp rise of African intelligence networks built not on foreign grants, but on pure loyalty to the people. This isn't fiction. It's unfolding right now across West Africa. Western powers thought they could infiltrate, manipulate, and destabilize. Today on Vibe News, we're pulling the curtain back on how foreign operatives quietly set up spy networks in West Africa. The dramatic discovery of a covert spy hub near Burkina Faso's border, and the brilliant counterintel strategy that exposed it all. If they couldn't control the leaders directly, they would control the information, the narratives, and the people behind the scenes. It began with silence, surveillance drones, coded transmissions, and secret meetings in the dead of night. Stay locked in, because by the end of this video, you'll realize Africa isn't just resisting, it's reclaiming. Suspicious foreign NGOs, some barely 6 months old, were popping up in sensitive areas near Ouagadougou and the western regions. The so-called intel war didn't start with guns or explosions. Observe, record, let them reveal themselves. After the military governments of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger rejected French control and pivoted toward Pan-African independence, Western think tanks and spy agencies began quietly shifting strategies. That's where the covert spy missions began. They took photos, intercepted messages, and followed the money trails. According to high-level sources, Burkina Faso's intelligence began noticing unusual signal traffic from the Ivorian border. From the outside, it looked like a humanitarian logistics hub, operated by a Swiss-based NGO. At first, it looked like standard satellite relay patterns, but it was irregular. Surveillance drones were being remotely piloted from the base. And, most disturbingly, real-time audio feeds from Burkina Faso's capital had been tapped. Data packages were being transferred at odd hours to encrypted servers in Geneva, Paris, and Langley. More alarmingly, local agents discovered intercepted communications between French nationals and embedded contacts within Burkina Faso's telecom infrastructure. Burkina Faso's response: silence and surveillance. Captain Ibrahim Traore issued a directive: do not strike. For months, undercover Burkinabe agents shadowed Western NGO operatives, posing as janitors, assistants, and translators. The truth was worse than imagined. One discovery turned everything upside down. But they cannot infiltrate our hearts. Burkina Faso belongs to us, not to Paris, not to Washington, not to anyone but the Burkinabe people. In a secluded compound in Côte d'Ivoire, just 60 kilometers from the Burkina Faso border, an advanced surveillance base was uncovered. But beneath the surface, it was something else entirely. The Swiss NGO shuttered its offices. Côte d'Ivoire refused to comment. But the proof was out. African leaders began to take notice. Hidden underground was a data center equipped with satellite relays, high-frequency antennas, and facial recognition software. This wasn't just espionage. This was digital warfare. Even Senegalese opposition leaders demanded clarity on foreign presence in West Africa. Across the continent, hashtags like #AfricaUnderwatch and #SpyWarAfrica began trending. Sources close to Vibe News confirmed that Burkina Faso's internal affairs team, along with allies from Mali's counterintel division, infiltrated the site pretending to be maintenance staff. Every province launched community intel groups: farmers, students, drivers, ordinary people trained to spot patterns and report suspicious activity. Their objective? Root out espionage and create an African-owned surveillance system. What they found included internal maps of military camps in Ouagadougou. Vibe News was one of the first to join the Secure Broadcast Network, an honor and responsibility. Psychological profiles of Captain Traore and his ministers. Detailed media manipulation plans aimed at inciting revolt. The teacher with a keen eye became the first line of defense. And perhaps the biggest bombshell? A list of journalists and influencers across West Africa who had been paid to attack pro-AS governments online. It built a network no foreign spy could penetrate. Within days, the Burkinabe government notified Côte d'Ivoire. But instead of cooperation, they received silence. His government introduced new training centers for intelligence gathering, not run by generals, but by community leaders. And what we witnessed was nothing short of revolutionary. Traore made a decision that would change history, go public. In a bold national address broadcast by Afrique Vibe News and echoed by local stations across the Sahel, Captain Ibrahim Traore stared directly into the camera and spoke not to world leaders, but to his people. They have cameras in our homes, microphones in our streets, and agents in our schools. With that, the government released damning photos of the spy base, including images of foreign operatives and hard drives containing surveillance logs. They're watching how Burkina Faso fights back. They're learning. Every voice counts in this new chapter of African power. And they're planning. The world was stunned. France and the United States quickly denied involvement. Mali, Niger, and Guinea expressed public solidarity. Western media tried to bury the story, but Afrique Vibe News made sure it stayed alive. In response to the revelations, the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, moved swiftly. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger formed a joint counterintelligence task force called the Pan-African Shield. No more relying on European satellites or American cyber defense contractors. Instead, they turned to Russia for cyber defense, Iran for encryption technology, and China for satellite imaging partnerships. This marked the first time in African history that a security alliance formed without a Western signature. Even more revolutionary, the AES created its own media platform to counter fake narratives. Citizens were trained in digital literacy and surveillance awareness. Western powers scoffed. But then something happened. AES operations uncovered two more spy hubs, one in Senegal, the other in Ghana, run by private security firms with links to former NATO contractors. The intel war had officially gone continental. The world underestimated Africa. Again, they assumed that without satellites, without billions in tech, and without Western training, African countries couldn't defend their sovereignty. But Burkina Faso proved otherwise. Instead of depending on technology, they relied on something far more powerful: community intelligence. The old village watchman became the new national asset. Where foreign agencies used tech, Burkina Faso used trust. And that trust? Captain Traore's doctrine of sovereignty by loyalty spread across villages and borders. From radio signals to whistleblowers, from drone tracking to ground informants, Burkina Faso's model became Africa's new intel blueprint. Afrique Vibe News had exclusive access to these programs. Now the world watches, some with fear, some with respect. Burkina Faso's actions have changed the game. The days of unchecked espionage in Africa are over. Western powers now understand. Africa is watching back. Captain Traore has become a symbol of resistance, not just to colonial rule, but to the very systems of silence and surveillance that have haunted the continent for decades. Across Africa, young leaders are rising. The secret African intel war may have started in the shadows, but it's now shining in full light. And thanks to platforms like Afrique Vibe News, the world will know Africa is no one's blind spot anymore. This has been Afrique Vibe News, your source for real African stories that mainstream media won't touch. If this story shocked you, share it, comment below, and subscribe. Tell us, do you think more African nations will join Burkina Faso's resistance? Is the intel war just beginning? The tide is turning. The blindfold is off. And Africa is rising. Thanks for watching. Stay bold, stay woke, and stay African. Afrique Vibe News, telling Africa's truth, no matter who's listening.